to your paycheck. So, and that's, you know,
I don't care what department. You want to talk about a different department? And I have to say, I take it as an offense and an insult to assume that me, the one person who hasn't been biased in this process, and I've been asking for nothing but uniformity from the very beginning. That's all I've been asking for. While the four of you behave and conduct yourselves in a biased, prejudicial, and discriminatory fashion, I don't care what you do, as long as you do it uniformly. That's all I've been asking for.
okay.
So don't sit here and make an unsubstantiated accusation that I am making a decision or providing input based upon my own personal finances. That is insulting, offensive, and it's not true. Okay?
Or,
I'm not making a decision about anything other than this budget process, which I'm asking for uniformity in how we approach it. And what you've just told me is that you've not approached it in a consistent manner.
it did say that.
Okay, then let's see this report for the other departments. I would like to see the same report for all the other departments.
We're going to move on.
I have a question, just one
Yeah.
simple question. Out of curiosity, give me the FOIL number for 2011.
Can you scroll up? 3 FOIL requests and 4 FOIL copies.
It was about 38 FOIL requests.
Can you name them in FOIL?
It was 38 because you don't understand, you don't understand.
These are your numbers, Carol.
No, they're my numbers for finance. For finance, Mike. Most FOIL requests do not cost.
We're critically aware of that. So, again, it's not an exact science, and I'm not
yeah.
trying to say it is, but.
Well, I can't just point how this is incorrect, so just want to bring that up.
Okay. And you know what, I know it's kind of harsh and it's illicit, and I think we fairly addressed your budget in here.
I just have that question.
Okay.
That was all.
Yeah,
I have a question
all right, thanks.
with regard to revenues in the court, and again, it's the process that creates the revenues. We're not there to make money for the town, we're aware of that. However, when you talk in the last 10 years that the town court has brought in $2 million in revenues to this town, and in order to create that revenue, in order to create what is reported to the comptroller, it's generated by numbers. So in order for the numbers to be that high, there has to be that many more cases that the court is working on, that is actually going through our hands. You can't conduct, if you have more work, you can't conduct it in the same amount of time. Your increase in our benefits has resulted in the more hours that the court has worked over the course of the years.
Our increase in benefits,
No, the increase in the number of personal services, the amount of our salary, which you are referencing. The security was part of a Justice Court Reform
I
Act.
think I addressed that.
Yeah, that was in 2008. So even if you take that 22,000 off, you can't see that the town's expenses when it came to the court far exceeded what was brought in. The court was able to sustain its own budget plus return at least 50% to this town. And yet you have cut us down to the point where now we are not going to be able to operate and dispense the number of tickets that may come in.
So you
And
say I cut your budget by how much percent?
24.
But yet when you put in your projection, you've cut your projected revenue by almost 30%.
I still told you it's a projection.
Then why was it last year 130,000, this year it's 100,000?
It was a projection. I can project 100,000 and we can still get 130.
And I'm glad to address that when it comes.
Yeah,
I've
but that's-
asked you
but
to
you-
show me number
No,
of
how
tickets,
can I show you what's projected, Mike? You can project, we can project what we're going to earn in a certain time.
I understand that.
Okay,
I
so
understand
by
that.
you cutting the town budget in the court, you're prohibiting us from conducting our job, thus not being able to process as many tickets as we would have. So in turn, you are cutting the revenues of this.
No.
Oh, yes. And
So
I might
I've
add
asked you
this. No,
since
let me just
January,
add this.
Michelle, to show
Wait.
me what you do,
I
show me
gave
the
you-
widgets.
I
You
gave-
show me a link.
I
that showed
have
a
given
total.
you
That was it.
court descriptions and court clerk descriptions of what the duties are of the court. Now I'll just say one more thing. Instead of putting down in budgets that are underestimated, why don't you put down overspending? Because truly, that's what it is. Truly overspending on the web administrator, truly overspending in planning supplies, truly overspending in other areas that if they had been appropriated properly, they would have come in budget.
Agreed.
Then why are you allowing them to continue with a raise next year? Why are you
I didn't
giving them
build-
that raise?
I didn't build last year's budget,
Why are
Michelle.
you, but you're asking
So I
that,
didn't
you're
appropriate it.
also, you are also giving the town web administrator much more money, which he's fictitiously gonna go over budget in the first 3 months, because he's already been over that budget already.
And
So-
I can talk to that when you're ready.
Well, we're talking about it, let's
But-
talk about it.
So you only have to stay within the money that you have in your checkbook when he wants to, I guess.
So
The
last
court's
year-
always stayed within their money, Todd. We've always stayed within our money, we've never gone over budget.
Right, your budget was set so high,
Absolutely not,
okay.
absolutely not.
Well, so, before we go, I mean, go ahead, you can close it.
No.
It's a farce.
Can we open up a copy of the preliminary budget? I don't know if you can shrink that. Whoa. So, when I asked Michelle how many hours you put in, what was your answer? You never gave me an answer. It was just, I need to work and I need to work. Oh, what does that mean?
I don't think that this is the proper forum for this to begin with. Secondly, I gave you what my hours were, and I don't think you really, we're past that, Mike. It's about the numbers right now.
Exactly.
Exactly, Mike.
Yeah. How many hours do you work a week? What is the office open? How many hours how many hours does it take? And you never gave an answer.
I
Never.
gave you everything that was required of me.
Okay.
Your word against mine.
Yeah.
Numbers speak it.
So, folks, it's gonna be hard to read. I mean, Mitch got a hard copy here. So here's the audit report. This is what we actually spent last year. This is what was budgeted. This is the tentative budgets that the department had submitted, and this is what we're discussing now. These are the actual numbers we're gonna be going into the budget with. So if we can slide up to, or slide down, sorry. There we go. Yep. Page 1 is the revenues, projected revenues for the town. All right, again, oh, slow down. Again, projected revenues are down. They're down. Again, can't spend more than you're bringing in. Again, it's projected, I understand that. Everybody tends to low bid the revenues. It's a safe way to do accounting. It really is. Go ahead, there you go. Town board, no change, pretty much flat. Justice, so they spent 44,000 here, or 46,000, you know, we're looking at 27 now. Again, based on the projected 30% decrease. You know, if the justice is saying they need more time, then present your case to the board and we'll increase the line. That's all we're asking. Show us where and how you're spending. The same with the clerk's office. If you have additional revenues or additional needs, come talk to the board. I'm not setting a budget at $55,000 like you did last year. I don't understand why would you possibly do that. Go ahead, so supervisor's office, no change, that's pretty much flat. Assessor's office, flat. Town clerk, this is the sore one, 6,000, she asked for 12,000. But, he asked for 16, he spent 12 last year. I think we show the audit report this year. I think the town clerk's running at, what, 6,000, Carol, something like that? $7,000 with 2 months left. Way way. Why would I, again, I don't understand, why would we spend or budget a number that is just way out? Again, and hopefully speaking for most of the board, if a special project comes in, we'll gladly fund it. That's why we have a contingency fund. I'm just not gonna sit out there and say, the sky's the limit to what you want. I just can't do that and be conscious. The attorney's fees, again, we talked about that. So hopefully as our cost reduction plan is starting to work, is that the attorney fees are gonna drop over a year. It's actually a $35,000 fee, but we break it up into 3 different categories: planning, zoning, and ZRC, I think. Web administrator, a tough subject, so let's talk about it. So what wasn't happening in the past few years is the upload of videos to the website or the upload of financials to the website. Now, I'm sure if the other video person was here, he would say that to put up a town board video takes an hour or so, hour and 2 hours. Sometimes I get a little long-winded. These town board meetings go a little bit longer than suspected. But Amy's here. I think she can testify how long it takes to upload videos and then upload the financials, things we talked about during the campaign. So, what are we going to do to reduce that cost? So the plan is to ask each one of the secretaries and the bookkeeper, as part of their increased duties and keeping their salaries flat, is I'm going to ask them to start uploading the minutes. I'm going to ask them to start uploading the video, the financials. I'm going to ask them to upload the videos as part of their current responsibilities. So that should drive down the web administrator cost for the year. So that is an ongoing project. Buildings and grounds, pretty much flat again.
So are we gonna reduce the budget line for that then?
No.
So we're gonna spend less, but we're gonna leave the budget there.
We're going to try to spend less, that's correct. Yeah.
But another department, you just said we were lowering the budget, we were looking at a similar trend.
Repeat your question?
Did you just say for another department that we're not spending that, we're not gonna budget for it? So if we're not gonna spend that in the budget line, why don't we reduce that budget line?
No, so not that far. There we are. I'm open to try and drop it a little bit. It's still going to take time to update it until we get everybody trained.
The SIPS program is just a contractual fee, correct?
Correct. Flat. It's a one-time fee, or maybe twice a year. I don't remember. Again, buildings and grounds. I think we've increased it a little bit. We've lost a position, so we lost some headcount there. But we've put a little bit more money into capital improvement, and what was the other one? Geez, I can't see it here. Somewhere, but I want to highlight one thing here. From Town Hall Energy, we appropriated $10,500. Now, if everything goes well with Mr. Esposito and Mr. Drzezinski and getting some of the solars plans initiated, we hope we can drop by what, 40%, Joe? 30 to 40%. So again, we hope we're going to be able to cut costs on Town Hall Energy. Again, using that money maybe hopefully to strategically reinvest in our infrastructure. And again, let me highlight too, I'm being pretty drastic on some of the budgets here, but if we can learn to live on these salaries or these budgets, then there's going to be room for, possibly raises next year. I know a lot of the staff has not had a raise in a couple of years. And I know it's tough times, it's really tough economically, but, these are considerations that we're trying to include into this year's planning that we can, you know, again, we can capture enough savings that maybe we can spend a little bit more next year on salaries, or increase salaries. Central print, this is again for a newsletter, and then some mail supplies. Again, we've dropped that by half, all right? What was appropriated last year. Insurance, these are pretty much flat. State police, barracks, again, our big question next year is by contract, we have to do $20,000 worth of bid work on the building. So Lou's already started working, I think, on the scope of work for that, right, Lou? Yeah. So that's pretty much what it is. Go ahead, keep going. The fire warden is here. We're not going to get him anyway. Dog control, I had to lower this, Darla, so I'll talk to you about it. Code enforcement is flat. I don't know if Dan's here still or not. This is flat. Highway professional services is flat. The youth program went up to like $300, that's based on pretty much this year. The planner's flat, the zoning board is flat. The planner, we restored to her that the previous salary. Otherwise, everything else is flat. And again, you can see where we start putting in the additional attorney's fees to make up for $36,000 total. Again, some of the ZRC, the PAC teams, they're flat. This number here, our medical insurance is going to drop, so I need to adjust that. That's going to be $12,000 and not $18,000, so that's going to adjust down. So can you scroll up just a hair more? And I don't know if you just slide over one column. So our total, here's our revenues, and here's our total expenditures. Again, not a good number, so we're going to be using our fund balance as a float, really, is what it is, right? Because the money comes in throughout the year, so this fund balance is like a floating checkbook. So again, the object is here is to continue to reduce these under these. Hopefully these will come up, because again, we underestimated our revenues. But again, as we go back, as I showed in the PowerPoint charts, that the object is to come in underneath the revenues for the year. That's the objective, keep the town solvent and keep the town without taxes, without a town tax. That's the objective of this board. You know, I know it seems a little bit harsh, but you know, we've been working on it, looking at this all year.
I don't think it seems harsh, I just think it's discriminatory. It's not uniform. I know you keep saying it's harsh, but it's not harsh. I think it's just not uniform.
All right. Just come back, scroll down a little bit more, you know, so we're getting to, here's highway. So since we don't have a highway department, which is actually a separate district, we have to set up a separate district. So what Nick Moore has asked for is $35,000 for next year in snow removal and then $50,000 in road repairs for a total of $85,000. Again, we saw the chart on highway spending. It's tough. Whatever work you're going to do out there for highways can be very expensive. So it's something we need to, as a town board, to monitor very, very closely and work with the county. So,
if I may also add, Mike, I believe it was several years ago it was identified that some maintenance work had not been done on the roads, and we had reached a point where, you know, as roads go, if you spend along the way to maintain them, they're less costly to maintain than they are to let deteriorate and then fix with larger. And we had reached a point with our, or whatever miles of road, where they had reached a greater state of disrepair and put ourselves kind of in a spot where we need to spend some over a few year period to get them back up to. I think we're still in the middle of that kind of upgrade.
I'm in complete agreement with you. I am in complete agreement with you, Todd. And it's not only as a highway, again, as a town the what if an emergency comes. You know, that, going back to the other chart, our savings account is very small, 78,000, that's it. So as Todd said, we want to do some work next year on highway, it's expensive. If anything happens, you know, it's expensive. It's critical that we, you know, be as trim as possible. Again, let me reemphasize, if some departments feel that during the year, because the workloads increase or they get a special project, please come to the board, we can amend the budget. I'm just not going to give carte blanche. If you want to scroll over again, so 85,000 for highway, hopefully we'll come underneath that. No, it's good, sorry, or down, yes. We'll get into the water a little further down. So here's the water. Again, you know, projected revenues. This up here is the revenues, projected revenues. Here's the operations and maintenance side of it. Insurance, contingency account, the water commissioner, admin expenses, water system, pretty much flat. We did, and we've got just water repairs. So I know we ran out last year, I know it was a sensitive subject, but the corporal report is just about done. I got a copy of it. I'm going to send it back because I'm not really satisfied with how they broke out the numbers. So I'm going to send it back to Doug Cole and say, this isn't what we asked for. But that's what the 50,000 is there for some water repairs. So it's a pretty big number. Again, obviously we need to watch that closely. But overall, you can see that the appropriation has dropped by, you know, almost 10,000, oh no, sorry, 6,000 or so. And that's the operations and maintenance. So overall, the water department, and that includes labor, or health benefits, everything, has dropped. So there's been a reduction in the water department. Interest and services on our bonds. We have actually 10 loans outstanding. I know I've been saying this, but I'm still trying to get, and John, our town attorney, has given me a name for another person that we can